Hello again, YouTube family. Thanks for those of you who joined me on this episode on my YouTube channel. And in this episode, I'm just having a discussion about the ramifications facing Donald Trump for the 37 criminal charges that he was indicted on in the state of Florida. This is a federal prosecution. He's facing federal felony charges. And the biggest question some people have is whether he will face prison time for the very serious charges he's faced with. I mean, we've been hearing, ever since the indictment came out, we've been hearing from various legal experts, people in politics, Republicans, Democrats, and you've had people like Chris Christie, who is a former prosecutor himself, bring up the fact that these are very serious charges. You had Bill Barr, Donald Trump's former attorney general, say that if these charges are true, if they hold up in court, that Donald Trump is, in his words, toast. The simple answer is that Donald Trump should face severe prison time for the charges he's been faced with. The reality is, I don't know that Donald Trump will, even if convicted, face serious prison time. He has a total of over 500 years, potentially, if he's convicted and found guilty on all of the counts, and if he's prosecuted and sentenced to the maximum for each count. He has 31 criminal charges from the Espionage Act that he's facing, and then 6 other charges, mostly relating to do with holding on to sensitive classified documents that he wasn't entitled to hold on to. And Jack Smith, the special counsel in this case, did a thorough investigation and came up with a very thorough charging document. And the reality is, yes, Donald Trump should face, I would say, at least 15 to 20 years in prison for the charges he's facing. And even though you have a lot of Republicans right now claiming we have this two-tiered justice system, and we do have a multi-tiered justice system, it's just not the one they are claiming. They're claiming there's a justice system for Democrats and then a justice system for Republicans. And that's not the case. What we have is a justice system that protects the elites, that is, wealthy and powerful, well-connected people, and then a justice system that bulldozes over average people. If they commit a crime, whether willingly or accidentally, whether they do something on purpose or accidentally, they will get absolutely bulldozed in our justice system. And if you are poor, and if you're black or brown, you're going to get run over. You're going to get railroaded in court. That's the reality of our multi-tiered justice system. That it craps on the poor and protects the wealthy. That's what it does. And that's the way it was set up to work. But Donald Trump is one of the wealthy. He's one of the elites. He was born into extreme wealth. One of the problems he has, is that he was born into extreme wealth, and Donald Trump grew up a spoiled brat who assumes he can do whatever he wants and have no consequences. He assumes he can get away with everything that he does and face no penalties, no matter how bad it is what he does. And right now, Donald Trump is trying to assume that he will also get away with what he did in this case. He was the president for 4 years. After he left office, he had a massive trove of classified documents shipped to his personal residences. He apparently had documents in Mar-a-Lago, and at least had documents also at Bedminster. 2 separate golf resorts Trump owns. When he got out of office, Trump chose to live in Mar-a-Lago, and Trump is a two-time impeached, multi-time loser. That is, he lost the popular vote in 2016, despite winning the presidency due to the Electoral College. Then he lost control of the Congress in the midterms, and he lost the 2020 election. By even more, he lost both the electoral votes and the popular vote by more than he lost the popular vote in 2016. So the Republican Party has been on a losing spree because it attached its wagon to Donald Trump. And you have some Republicans who are intimating that right now as they go and do interviews and talk to the media, whether they're on Capitol Hill or whether they go to a cable news studio and talk in studio. They're trying to get away from Donald Trump. In the 2022 midterms, you had some Republicans running for office who tried to distance themselves from Donald Trump, and the ones who distanced themselves from Donald Trump did way better than the 2022 midterm elections, where people glommed on to Donald Trump, tried to imitate Donald Trump, and tried to be MAGA-ish like Donald Trump. So you have a lot of the establishment Republicans, that is, your run-of-the-mill milquetoast Republicans, who are trying to maneuver their voting base to support someone other than Donald Trump in this current Republican primary. There are a lot of choices, although Donald Trump is still polling massively ahead of everybody else. I mean, DeSantis is number 2 consistently in the polling, and he's trailing Donald Trump by double digits, large double digits. So it's looking like the 2024 presidential election will have Donald Trump as the Republican Party's nominee, unless something massive happens and causes a massive shift in the voting base of the Republicans. And one of the things people are questioning about is whether this indictment of Donald Trump will end up being the thing that finally ends Donald Trump's political hopes, which it doesn't look like it is. I mean, you have a swath of the Republican Party, the MAGAites, the maggots, whatever you call them, the Trump cultists. They are on board with Trump no matter what. They don't believe reality. They don't care about reality. They're not interested in reality. They look at this as just the Biden administration attacking his political opponent. Unfortunately, for the milquetoast standard Republicans holding office who would like to be rid of Trump, they also are walking that fine line where they're trying to claim that Donald Trump's indictment is simply the Democrat Party going after their political opponents, like it's some kind of banana republic situation. When the reality is, and Joe Biden has said he has kept himself out of the DOJ's investigation, and that's probably true. He doesn't care one way or another. Biden's just operating as president, and the DOJ, even Merrick Garland, was mostly removing himself from this investigation. He put in the special prosecutor to just go do his thing. Go investigate, charge if there's charges, don't charge if there's nothing to charge, whatever. That's the reality. Republican voters mostly don't seem to care about the reality. And Jack Smith did his job. Jack Smith, viewing it, saw that Donald Trump had jeopardized national security in this country by being so lackadaisical. I mean, Trump is simultaneously really dumb. He doesn't know a lot. He has little to no intellectual curiosity, that is stuff that he doesn't know. He has no desire to go find out about it. While he's also extremely lazy. We know from his schedule when he was president that the vast majority of his day in and day out, was spent watching cable news, looking for people talking about him, Donald Trump. That's how he spent most of his time as president. I mean, if you take away the time he spent watching cable news and the time he spent playing golf, you would take away most of the 4 years he was in office. Donald Trump was extremely lazy, still is extremely lazy, and he had documents, and the last video I did was on this 37 count Donald Trump indictment, and one of the places he had documents was on a stage in a ballroom at Mar-a-Lago. Apparently a ballroom that's accessible from the pool deck. So anyone staying at Mar-a-Lago who was out swimming, hanging out by the pool, whatever, could take a shortcut into the hotel through this ballroom to go to their room to get a shower, get dressed, to go to dinner, whatever. And could say, oh, look, there's boxes on the stage. Oh, look, there's classified documents. Let's read a few top secret federal documents and then go get a shower and get ready for dinner. I mean, it's insane how dumb and lazy Donald Trump was with these documents. And he absolutely should be charged appropriately because he put our national security at risk. Serious risk. Because also, and again, Republicans don't care about the reality, but the reality is that Mar-a-Lago is a hotbed, and has been known as such for years, is a hotbed for spies. Foreign countries will send spies to Mar-a-Lago because that's the most likely place they can go and get access to classified information from our government. Unfortunately, foreign governments know that. It was just around a year ago they caught a Chinese spy at Mar-a-Lago who had come to the U.S., bought a membership at Mar-a-Lago, and was hanging out trying to get intel, because that's one of the good places to get it, because you have a dumbass former president who is both dumb and lazy and narcissistic to an insane degree that it's likely you could get intelligence for your foreign government from going to this dumbass's golf club. So Donald Trump should face severe criminal penalty for what he did. The judge in the case, Eileen Cannon, is the judge, if you recall, was trying to delay the investigation by Jack Smith by requiring a special master be put on the case. As a lot of legal experts at the time were saying, this case does not need a special master because it's already got a special prosecutor assigned to it. The DOJ and the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, pushed it out of their hands, assigned a special prosecutor to it, and said, you do the work. And that's the way it operated. Eileen Cannon, who was a Trump appointee, was trying to do what Trump's lawyers wanted and assign a special master to the case, which would have allowed this special master to have to go through every single one of these hundreds of classified documents and figure out what's Trump's personal information, what's personal to Trump, and what's government related, what's government documents that belong to NARA, the National Archives. They ended up going to the appellate court. A 3-judge appellate ruling was that no, this case does not need a special master because it's already got a special counselor, a special prosecutor assigned to it. You don't need a special master. And so her attempt to delay to benefit Trump was thrown out by the appellate court, which was also 3 Republican judges that were appointed by Donald Trump that went against Eileen Cannon. But she is the one who is the judge on this case. She has already shown that she has the ability to have deference towards Trump, the person that appointed her to her federal job. And so that is one mark in Trump's favor. The other thing is, this is going to go to trial at this point. There's nothing stopping it. All it takes is one person on a jury to say, I don't think he did anything wrong, to blow it all up. All it takes is one MAGA cultist getting on the jury to say, I don't care what they present, I'm not going to throw my support behind any kind of conviction. So there is a good likelihood Donald Trump will not face any severe penalties for what he did. He should, and there is always the chance that he will face some penalty for what he did, because it's a very solid case. It's a very solid indictment, and the Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, did his job very well, along with all the other lawyers that were on his team putting this stuff together. With Eileen Cannon, the Trump judge on the case, there's always the chance that even if he's found guilty by the jury, even if the jury listens to the case, the facts of the case, the evidence in the case, and says, we find him guilty on 30 of the 37 counts, and out of the 30 counts that they end up finding him guilty on, it'll come back to the judge for sentencing. And the judge can say, well, I'm going to sentence him to 5 years of probation to run concurrently. So all the 30 counts he was found guilty on are all running concurrently. So she can say, I'm going to charge it, I'm going to sentence him to 5 years on all 30 counts. All 30 counts will run concurrently, and his 5 years will be probation, or his 5 years will be house arrest. And that's where he could end up not serving any time in prison, and could spend 5 years on probation and have all 30 counts wiped away. That's also possible because you have a Trump-sided judge that's overseeing this. So it's possible he could spend years in prison. It's possible he could spend zero time at all in prison. And what I want to make sure of is people understand that when Republicans get out here and try to say Democrats are weaponizing the Department of Justice against Republicans, that's not the case. Donald Trump did what he's accused of. He took the documents from the White House. He held them at Mar-a-Lago. When they asked for them back, he refused to give them. He lied, said he didn't have any. On the first trip the FBI made to Mar-a-Lago, he gave some of the documents back, kept others, and claimed, I have no more. And that's the whole ordeal he's going through. One of the lawyers that Trump hired originally, who was an actual reputable lawyer, and the only way Trump got him to work for him initially was the guy charged Trump $3 million up front, because if you're going to work for Trump as a lawyer, you've got to get the money up front. Otherwise, he won't pay you. That guy got paid up front, but he quit Trump's team when Trump asked him to lie to the FBI. He's a reputable lawyer who has a good education, who has a solid practice working for a reputable law firm. And he's like, no, I'm not going to lie to the FBI for you. If you want to do that, do it yourself. And I'm done. That's it. I'm taking the $3 million you gave me. You've got the work that I did for you. And one of the things this guy was doing was trying to set up for Donald Trump to turn all the documents over to the Department of Justice. For him to go to the DOJ, talk to the DOJ lawyers and say, look, Trump has these documents. He wants to just turn them over and be done with it. If they want to still charge him, come up with a plea deal, kind of like what Hunter Biden recently did. Hunter Biden just today or yesterday came up with a plea deal. His failure to pay taxes in 2017 and 2018, along with a felony gun charge for purchasing a gun, lying on the document to purchase the gun because he was addicted to narcotics at the time, which federal law says if you are addicted to narcotics, you can't purchase a gun legally in this country. And so he has those 3 charges, and he pled guilty, and he will not see any prison time. I mean, it's not that far-fetched that you wouldn't see prison time for buying a gun in America or failure to pay taxes in over a 2-year period, because in the end, Hunter Biden did go back and pay the taxes and the penalties assessed on that failure to pay taxes. I mean, he was a first-time offender in that, and most likely the IRS is not going to try to put you in prison as a first-time offender in failure to pay taxes, particularly when you eventually come clean and say, okay, here's the taxes I owed, here's the penalties, I'm done. So the Hunter Biden thing is not a big deal, but Republicans are going to make it like it's a big deal, like Hunter Biden somehow getting a slap on the wrist, whereas Trump's being raked across the coals. Same thing with the Biden classified documents, Mike Pence classified documents, the Hillary Clinton private server in her basement. And the difference is, say for Hillary Clinton, in her instance, she had set up protocols to try and ensure classified documents didn't get sent to that server. When the FBI investigated her, they noted that she had tried to put protocols in place to ensure classified documents would not end up on that server. With the Joe Biden issue, when he was vice president and had his stuff packed up when he was leaving office, the people who were packing stuff up ended up packing some classified government documents, and it got shipped off to his home, to his garage, wherever. And same thing with Mike Pence. Mike Pence, when he was leaving office as vice president, I'm sure had no intent to take any classified documents he was not supposed to take with him. But people packed his office up, and some classified documents ended up getting packed up and sent away as well. The thing is, for Joe Biden and Mike Pence, when classified documents were found at the office Joe Biden had after he left office, it was reported, hey, we found these documents. He was like, report it to NARA, report it to the DOJ, make sure if they need to investigate that it gets investigated. And they found more, and it got investigated. They found more documents. And Joe Biden cooperated completely. Mike Pence, I'm not a fan of Mike Pence, but the thing is, he did nothing wrong intentionally. When they found the documents, he said, hey, search for more. Make sure while you're getting documents I shouldn't have, that you get all of them, and send them to the National Archives where they belong. With Trump, it didn't work out that way. You have Trump trying to tell lawyers to destroy government documents, trying to tell lawyers to lie to the FBI for him, trying to tell the FBI and the National Archives, the archivist, that he doesn't have documents they're looking for. I mean, he was trying to fight against it, trying to fight against giving the documents back. And the thing is, Trump could have avoided all of this if he just would have, when they first contacted him in 2021, if he would have just boxed up all the documents, had lawyers, paid a group of lawyers, go in there, box up all the government documents, put them together, tell them to come and get them. He wouldn't be facing the 37 charges he's facing now in Florida. He could have avoided it. This is all because of Donald Trump's ignorance and his vanity, and the fact that he is still, despite being in his late 70s, a spoiled brat who assumes he can do whatever he wants and face no penalty. Unfortunately, that's who we had as president prior to Biden. Whatever you want to attack Biden on, he's not dumb like Trump, and he's not incompetent like Trump. Trump's own stupidity and incompetence and vanity led him to where he's at. And yes, he should face severe criminal penalties for putting our national security at risk. That's as simple as that. Will he? My guess would be no. You've had numerous people running for the Republican nomination say they would be willing to pardon Trump if they got elected. Trump, I'm sure, if he runs in the 2024 election and gets elected president, his first act will be to pardon himself against this case. As far as the financial crimes case in New York, Alvin Bragg, the person that's prosecuting that case, has already said that his case will take a back seat to the federal prosecution in Florida. So if they move to court in Florida, his case will wait. And what I expect Donald Trump's lawyers to do in all these cases, you already have the case in New York. It's a financial crimes case. The next court date for that is December of this year. Almost the very end of this year is the next time that case is going to see daylight in court. As far as this case in Florida, I don't know when the next time they're supposed to show up in court. You also have the prosecution in Georgia for Donald Trump trying to bully Georgia's elected officials into changing the vote tallies to make him the winner of Georgia. That case, Fani Willis, the DA that's prosecuting that, is likely to bring charges soon against Trump for that. So you have further charges coming down the road. Donald Trump has already been found liable in a civil case. E. Jean Carroll, the writer who charged Trump with sexual assault and rape years ago, Trump's already been found liable in that for the sexual assault. He wasn't found liable for the rape charge, but he was found liable for the sexual misconduct and was ordered to pay her $5 million. My guess would be that she's not seen any of that money yet. Donald Trump still owes the IRS over $70 million for money he received years ago that he wasn't entitled to in a tax refund. And my guess is the IRS will never see a penny of that $70+ million. And all of Donald Trump's lawyers are going to try and push all of these court actions back and back and back and back until they're after the 2024 election. What they're going to try and do is make sure there is no court that happens, there's no judgments rendered until Trump has a chance to run in the general election and try and become president again and escape penalties for all this. Because if Trump becomes president, he can pardon himself. That would be a constitutional conundrum. People would have to challenge it, go to the Supreme Court and ask the question, can the president pardon himself? But we have a very right-wing ideological Supreme Court that may very well rule that, yeah, you can. For the state charges, Donald Trump as president can use his bully pulpit to try and put pressure on states to dismiss those charges against him as well. So Donald Trump's hope, from the way I'm looking at it, is that he wins the 2024 presidential election and becomes president and can figure a way to get himself out of these legal predicaments through being president again. His lawyer's job, and I mean, he has bottom of the barrel lawyers right now. As from what I'm reading, there are no reputable lawyers that will work for Donald Trump. In order for him to get a reputable lawyer, he has to pay a large amount of money up front, and once he does anything or asks them to do anything legally questionable, they're like, I'm out. I'm not doing it. Nope. Part of my agreement I made with you was you asked me to do anything that jeopardizes my legal protection. We're done. And after the last guy quit, it looks like no very renowned, reputable lawyers or law firms are going to work with Trump. So he's getting a lower quality of lawyer working for him. But they're going to have one simple task, and that task is going to be to try and push all of the court dates for all these charges in as far into the future as possible. And with the case in Florida, like I said, he has Eileen Cannon, a Trump-appointed judge who has already shown herself to have some deference towards Trump. There is always the chance they will argue that we need to have more time to go through evidence, we need to have more time for this, more time for this, more time for this, we need to push it back. And it's very likely she'll say, okay, we'll push it back to June of next year, June of 2024. And then they say, well, we can't do it in June because of this. And she's like, okay, we'll push it back to August. And they're like, well, August is too soon. We still need more time. She's like, okay, we'll push it back to December of 2024. Which may be good for them. They may be like, that's going to be after the election, and he's hoping to win the election and free himself of all this trouble. And my worry right now is that he could very well win the 2024 election. Donald Trump could be charged, taken to court, found guilty, sentenced to prison in the Florida case, in the federal case, and could still run for, I mean, there's nothing that will keep him from running for president from prison. He'll still be able to run for president. He can't go out and make public appearances if he's in prison. But I guess the most famous of the people who have run for president from prison is Eugene Debs in the early 20th century. Was put in prison and ran for president, got around 2 or 3% of the vote from prison around the 1920s. So Trump could still run for president from prison if he was convicted and sentenced and had to show up and start serving time in prison. He could run for president from prison. And Joe Biden has done very little. I mean, he's just toying around the edges politically, trying to do as little as he possibly can do and still claim that he's done something great. And the thing is, Americans realize when you aren't really doing enough. as president. I mean, at this point, after the midterms, Republicans took control of the House. So there is nothing Biden can pass unless Republicans agree to it. And so, with the debt ceiling thing, he negotiated on the debt ceiling fight. He didn't have to. He had other options to avoid playing this game with Republicans where they want to hold the nation hostage over raising the debt ceiling. But Biden played along with it, and he allowed for cuts in various programs so Republicans could claim victory, and so Biden could get the debt ceiling lifted, and they're not going to have to address it again until 2025. So Biden's like, well, that alleviates my problem. I don't have to deal with it between now and the election again. But Biden has done very little. He's been a very weak president, and despite his massive claims of all this stuff he's going to do, he's failed to fulfill most of it. I mean, the Build Back Better bill, he allowed to completely crumble. Now, that was the name of his campaign in 2020, was Build Back Better. That was his signature agenda. He didn't even fight for it. He didn't even try. He let it just fall by the wayside. So he has not done much. Democrats are counting on people's memory of how bad Trump was. That they will be able to beat Trump because people will remember how uniquely horrible his presidency was. I don't know that this country has that solid of a memory, particularly when we have still higher than normal inflation. It's gone down from the height following the return from COVID, but it's still higher than normal. And most of that inflation is price gouging on the part of corporations. But a lot of people aren't looking at that. The news media only recently is starting to acknowledge that. So, I mean, that has not been presented honestly the way it should have been for a lot of this time. And so I don't know that Joe Biden has that clear a path to re-election. His popularity polls are in the gutter. And when it comes to the country's economic situation, it's in the low 30s. I mean, it used to be that if a incumbent president's approval ratings were below 50%, he was in trouble. Joe Biden's barely able to reach 40% on some approval polls. I mean, he's in the gutter. And when you break it down issue by issue, such as economic issues, he's polling like 33%. So that's saying that almost 70% disapprove of what he's done economically in this country. So there is no clear path for Joe Biden. There is no clear path for a Joe Biden re-election. Democrats are already saying they're not going to hold debates for some Democrat states. The Democrat Party in those states are saying our delegates are going to Biden. We're not going to give the people in the state the ability to try and vote for somebody else. I mean, Marianne Williamson and Robert Kennedy Jr. are the two running against Biden right now in the Democrat primary, and it looks like there's nobody else going to hop in. And Biden doesn't have that clear of a path to victory, as it is himself. And when the Democrat Party is pushing away the notion of democracy and saying, we're not going to allow democracy in our party, we're just going to push Biden out there again, that's your choice. Biden or whoever wins the Republican primary. I don't know that that's going to inspire enough people to get out and vote that the Democrat can win. So the Democrat Party is hurting themselves by not holding debates, by not letting people get involved and try and vote for somebody besides Biden. I mean, as it is right now, I'm supporting Marianne Williamson. As long as she's still running when my state, Nevada, caucuses, I will caucus for Marianne Williamson because I don't want Joe Biden to be running again. I don't trust that he can win, whether it's Trump or DeSantis or somebody else from the Republican Party. I don't trust that Biden can win, but that's what Democrats are hoping on. So as it is, Trump can run for prison if he was to get sentenced. I really don't know that these cases will make it to court before the election. Because, as I said, his lawyer's whole job is going to be push everything back and back and back and back and back till after the election. Trump was to become the Republican nominee, go up against Joe Biden in a presidential election and lose. Biden gets reelected. Who knows what will happen? Because Trump will again claim voter fraud. He will claim that the Democrats stole the election. His supporters could go nuts, hit the streets with well armed, and we could have havoc on our hands. Donald Trump should see prison time. Hopefully he will see prison time, because he endangered the security of this country. But I wouldn't count on it, and I certainly wouldn't bet on it. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Give the channel a like, a subscribe, and by all means, have a good day.